Camera up there? Little camera flashing?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. All right, so just like this is the interesting part too, is it's not that different than drawing on the figure, especially because we've got this to look at anyways. So we're going to plot, okay, where would that collar stand be? And the collar stand would be, here above the pit of the neck just a little bit. So just kind of play on where's that collar stand. All right, and we would see a little bit of that collar stand. And there would be a button right at the center of that collar stand. I know it's hard for you to see, but are you getting the idea what I'm talking about here? Mm-hmm. Collar stand, top of the collar stand, button right there. Because that's going to help us see where to fold that collar from. So see how the collar from the top of the collar band just kind of rolls over. Okay, now we're going to go up on the neck, and we're going to pull a line around the neck and to the top of that collar. So you see how it's very much like what we did on the figure when we drew necklines.
Where did you put pull the curve down, from the top of the line or from the button?
From the top, so here's what would be the bottom of the collar band, top of the collar band, button right in between, and then just kind of up and over the top of the collar band. So just kind of up and over right there. Then go ahead and pull a line to that point. Okay, now we're going to imagine that the head actually isn't here. And here, I'm going to do it in red so you can see what I'm doing. You can see I'm drawing the top of the collar there. So just like we did on the figure, we had the line come out from behind the neck. Well, we're going to extend it all the way to that center line. So the line goes above, and that's the back of the collar, and then you can see we're going to bring the collar down here to the shoulder. Can you all see what I'm doing there? Yeah. There and down. So we're just pretending that basically that the head isn't there, and this is what we're seeing, the neckline, or the collar going behind and around the neck. And then we can go ahead and connect the collar points there. And then what we'll see inside the collar, and this might be a little hard for you to see here on my tracing paper, but you can also look here, we see the collar band inside there. So go ahead and a little bit below the top of the collar, draw two parallel lines, and they can have a little slight curve too, and that's the collar band that we see. Now, this particular blouse has the type of placket, which I guess I don't really know what it's called, come to think of it, but the placket that is stitched on both sides down the center front. So it has top stitching on both sides. So it's not just a placket turned, it's actually sewn on top. I don't know what to call that placket. I'll have to look that up.
So it's a separate piece of,
Separate
it's not
piece.
just turned over, but it's a separate.
Piece, that separate type of placket. Maybe it's called a separate placket. I don't.
Just a placket, right? Isn't it just a placket?
I was like, I've never heard other
I don't know, but yeah, I was like, how do you distinguish that type from the type that's just folded under? I don't know. I'll find out. I'll let you know. All right, but since it is that type of placket, look over here for a second. So what we can do is, what I did when I did this, I thought, okay, I'm going to go ahead and place the buttons right down center front. That way, that's going to help me know where to draw the line on each side. So I just kind of evenly placed. I have the button on the collar band, and then I added 5 more buttons down the center front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons. Okay, now we can decide the length of the blouse, and where's our little reference at? So this blouse is from this outfit that we drew, is tucked into the skirt, and you'll notice that it's not super tight and fitted to the body. So I thought, okay, it needs to flow a little bit from the body. And since it's tucked in, it should probably be obviously above the hip line. So just below the torso, I would say. So anyways, you kind of decide where you want the length of your blouse to be. And you can see I'm just drawing the bottom of the blouse. Okay, and then you can go ahead and draw that placket just down on each side of the center front. This will be, you'll have to just kind of experiment to see how far from the center front line do you want to. Oh, but actually only draw it on one side, because guess what? You're going to trace it on the other side, and then you know it'll be symmetrical.
And
So-
are we drawing it as a dotted line or a?
No, it's
solid?
because it's a separate piece. It'll be drawn as a solid line, but you will then have a little row of top stitching right next to the solid line. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just drawing the little row of top stitching. I don't know if you can see that. I probably have to zoom in for you to see it. So a little row of top stitching. So now I've got my collar stand, buttons. I've got the one side of the placket, and I've got the top stitch. Zoom in.
Yes.
Sorry, my hand is going to be in the way for a minute. You know what? It doesn't let me zoom when the camera's recording.
So which side did you put the dotted lines on?
So
To the left of the dotted line.
I wonder if I go closer to the camera, does it get bigger? If I do that, does it get bigger?
Yeah.
Can you see? Okay, so what I did there, as you can see, so the button's right on the fold.
It's blurry though.
Oh, sorry. Can you see?
So the stitches are on the inside of that solid line.
Yes, because they would be on the placket. It would be an edge stitch on the placket. All right, so I would say it's not even a 1/16 of an inch. I drew the line next to the center fold line, and then I drew my little dash line for the top stitch. And then, like I said, we get to trace it on the other side. I've got the bottom of my hem. We can go back and put the top stitch on the hem in a minute. All right, so can we go ahead and continue with the shoulder?
I didn't even catch the back of the collar thing you did.
It's hard to see. We'll go back, because you can still add that. When I remove the croquis, I think you'll be able to see things better. But I'm going to go ahead and, what I'm going to do right now is get the shape of the top, and then I can remove the croquis and you can see better. All right, so what I did here is I brought that shoulder out, and I extended it past the shoulder on this croquis and up a little bit. Because as we can see in that photograph and in that drawing, this is sort of a modern take on a sleeveless blouse. And we, of course, are seeing all this 80s influence in fashion, and the build-up shoulder is coming back. Okay, so this is going to be sleeveless and have a shoulder pad. The shoulder seam wraps slightly forward, so we're seeing the seam. And that is probably how a shoulder pad is stitched in there. I don't know, that's what we'd have to think about as constructing. How do we put a shoulder pad into a sleeveless blouse? But that's what they're doing. So I think back to the 80s, because I remember them pretty well. And they actually used to take the shoulder pad, cover it with the self fabric, and and then attach it or Velcro it, and you could Velcro it in and out too. Yeah.
Yes, I remember that.
Okay.
'Cause I used
You
to
do?
sew mine out all the time.
What? Okay, so anyways, then I'm from the pectoral muscle, I'm going to go ahead and let the fabric flow away from the body a bit. I think I got mine too short, but that's okay. I'm in pencil, so I'm going to lengthen it a little bit.
And I was thinking mine was too long because I was looking at yours.
No, I think mine's too short. So I'm going to let this fabric flow. So I would say the fabric just kind of gently flows over the hip of the croquis, so that when it is tucked in, it does form a little bit of blouson. All right, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and move that croquis out from underneath there so you can see what I've done a little better. Okay, now that I can see what I've done, I have to extend this line a bit.
So you may just slightly flare at the bottom.
Just kind of flowing over that hip, yeah, because for it to be fitted, it would have to have a fisheye dart but you can tell in the drawing that we did and also in the photograph that it's cinched in a little bit. Yeah, there's no dart. So it's just like a regular shirt being pulled in by the waistband of the skirt, and so we have a few gathers there.
That's what they call it.
Thank you. Okay, now we can go ahead and refold the paper. Okay, so if you can see here, you were asking, Keisha, you were asking about the back of the collar. So we have the top of the collar, and then we see the collar stand in there. So that's what you see here. Okay, now we can,
It's just a straight line.
yeah, it's just a straight line. And now we get to just trace what we did. So go ahead, refold your paper. I think to save time, we'll just do part of the back, just the back of the collar, because the rest of it is not really going to change. All right, so I've refolded the paper, and now I'm just tracing the shape of the collar, back of the collar, putting in the collar stand there there's the collar band. Now, of course, you do not need to retrace buttons, right? Because then you'd have 2 rows of buttons. Put it in the shape, the hem. Okay, but I will trace the placket line because of the type of placket that it is, that it's a placket sewn on top. So I will trace the other side of the placket, and I will put in the little broken line that represents the edge stitch on the placket. And then I open it back up. And after we finish this blouse, we will take a break. And then we'll come back and we'll do one more blouse, and then we'll start the dessert, the color. And I think the rest of the evening will be color. Unless we have time for that one more drawing I wanted to do. Or maybe we'll save it for next week.
And on the flat text for the pocket, you still need to show a curve, like how we did on the.
I do, yes. I straighten it out a little bit. So actually, I was debating on that when I did this.
Because it's like, you just want to show it's.
Sometimes I do. I mean, that's the beauty of being able to do them by hand, is I give it just a little bit of curve like the body would be curved. And then I was trying to decide, okay, well, how big do I want this pocket on the chest? How far away would it be from the placket? Do I see a little bit of the pocket over here at the side? And I decided, yes, we'll see the side of the pocket. How long should it be? And so on. And then I decided, then there's the top. But I actually wouldn't want it very curved. I just kind of like curved it over the bust a little bit. Okay, and then there's a top stitch on the hem of the pocket. And then there's an edge stitch around the edge of the pocket to sew the pocket on. So that's a broken line as well. Now, I also, if you see here, I also put a top stitch around the edge of the sleeve. And I put an edge stitch on the shoulder seam that comes forward. And then I have a clean 1/2-inch hem at the bottom of the shirt. Somehow here, I didn't get that quite even. So anyways, a clean 1/2-inch hem. Now, call-outs. Do we need to do that for the presentation? Not so much, but it never hurts anything if you want to call out that this is a 1/2-inch single needle hem. That's fine. Do you want to call out that you've got a 24-line button? Maybe. It's up to you.
Is there somewhere in what you've given us that describes what all of that means?
No, I would have to, it would be in a textbook that I would have to make you a chart. I'll have to see if I can find one.
The optional textbook, is it in there?
No, not that kind of detail. That would be more in like a production
Your hem
book.
was curved
You could
right.
say, even if you go buy buttons at the sewing store, they'll put 1/2-inch or 5/8. It's in the
Yeah.
industry that they use lines as the measurement of a button, a 24 line, a 30 line, a 36 line, and so on.
What is
Oh.
okay.
So a 24 line equals, it's a little bit bigger than a 1/2-inch button. Like I could pull them out and show you, like I recognize the sizes, but how.
Is it like the millimeter, like when we go to buy buttons, like an inch is like 25 millimeter? Is that what that's?
Probably is. But
So
they just
it's
refer to it
metric
as
terms
line.
they're using, the lines as a metric term?
Because it almost
Well,
sounds
that's a
like
really
the
good
same-
question. I
the
don't know
same,
that.
Uh-huh.
I don't know that. They just refer to it as lines
'cause
in
it
the
sounds
industry.
like the same measurement.
Could be.
Because like a 1 inch is 25 millimeters.
All right, okay, so before you go on break, let's just look at one more thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly show you the back of the collar. Well, you probably want a reference of this too. All right, because again, I'm going to use the front that we just did, place the center crease, and I'm going to trace the shape of the blouse for the back. The difference is I don't see the front of the collar, so the back of the collar sits on top of the back of the shirt, like so. Now, we might have a yoke, a back yoke, that's up to the designer. So anyways, I'm just going to quickly do this and show you the shape. Okay, now, let's see what kind of decisions I need to make here. All right, so this will be the rough sketch of the back of the blouse. There's the back of the collar. It sits on top of the shirt. You add the top stitch at the bottom, the edge stitch at the bottom of the collar. I added a back yoke that I will add a top stitch to. And I'm going to add a inverted pleat
Yes.
at the back of my blouse. What else do I need? I need my 1/2-inch clean hem indicated, and I need the hem at the sleeve, or the lack of, the sleeveless. And that's the back of the blouse. So I'm going to let you finish, and then when you've got a good reference of that, go ahead and take a 15-minute break. And I'll see you back here at I'll see you back here at, how about 7:55?
Yeah, that's good.
Right? It's 7:41 right now. Is that long enough? 7:55, okay. And then one more top, and then we get to play with our colors. All right, who needs help? With the flare skirt or anything, I can come and help you. What is it? This is my teeth probably coming back. So one. Come on, you big tennis and get back and break. I always forget. Hey. This could have, it's the idea though, it could be, I think, just a little bit full. Just a little bit full. But you get the idea about it. That was good too. That was good. The top row one. There's the paper. What do you need? Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, those are something. So those, and those charges I have to use. I need to hand it to the, here's the one that up here. And then like that. Millions of up there.
So what would you see? What would you see in the graph? So this is all good, but the size is good. I think we're gonna put a little softer flow. Maybe do one of those. And then I think what you would see is probably one point first. And then you would sit about something like that. Okay, certain thing, yes. Okay. How's your hair skirt go? Your long hair skirt? It's all right. Oh, no. Okay, you know what, this is not bad, but I'll tell you what, this looks, because this leaves in the center. Okay, so, let's see. Okay. Recording nothing.